Okay, back for more. We are still in actually Unit 2A. We've got a little bit more to do on the 2A notes and where we ended up before. We'll just pick right up from there. We're going to actually now talk about if you've got, if you have simplification to do, maybe you have an equation that's a little bit more complicated than the first early ones that we've done. There are some things that you need to do to simplify the sides of the equation before you actually go about using the steps to solve and isolate the variable. So you're familiar with combining like terms. We talked a lot about that last year. You know if it's a like term, if it has the same base and the same exponent. So x and x squared are not like terms, but 3x and 2x are like terms. We've got the distributive property, which is a really important property in math, to get rid of your parentheses, not only parentheses, but really any grouping symbol. So if you've got something to distribute on the outside of a grouping symbol, you need to take care of that. We clear the fractions by multiplying. If you've got fractions, we did a little bit of this toward the end of solving equations last year. It's easier to solve equations by getting rid of the fractions. So you need to multiply through both sides of the equation, every single term, by the lowest common multiple or the least common denominator. So the least common denominator, I'll just go ahead and write this in here. Let me get a pen going. Let's see, that's not what I want to do. So the lowest common denominator, some books call it the least common multiple, LCM. So we'll go through a couple examples and hopefully you'll remember this will come back to you what we did before. And then we need to talk about clearing out decimals. They're not very much fun to deal with, especially if you don't have a calculator. In order to clear a decimal from a fraction, you need to multiply through by a power of 10. So you can be multiplying through by 100, you can be multiplying through by 10, just depending on how many decimal places you have to clear. That will let you know how many, what power of 10 you have to multiply by. So on this first one, you can see we have some like terms. We've got m's here and m's here. 11m minus 6m leaves you 5m minus 8 equals 22. So we cleaned up that left-hand side of the equation before we actually started trying to do anything to get the variable by itself. Now you've got a two-step equation, much like the video we just did. You'll do your addition step before the division, and you'll end up with 5m equaling 30, and then division will take you to isolating the variable at m equals 6. When we look at part B, here's an equation where you can do the distribution first, or you can divide both sides by 3. But that's not very friendly. If you divide both of these sides by 3, you're going to end up with a fraction over here, or a decimal. So that is not a very friendly way to start. Only if this 10 had been a multiple of 3 would that have been a better choice. So we're going to go ahead and do our distribution. We end up with 10 is equal to 6x minus 18. That takes you to an easy two-step equation. Sorry, this pen is not cooperating really great. We end up with 6x equaling 28. Divide by 6. And, oh dear, 6 does not go into 28 evenly, but that's okay. You just need to simplify your fraction and reduce it down to 14 over 3, and you can leave your answer as an improper fraction. We're not looking for mixed numbers. You'll hardly ever see them in Algebra 1, and we don't need a decimal either. So you can leave it as a simplified improper fraction. If you don't simplify it, however, you really don't have the correct answer that we're looking for on a test or a quiz. Let's talk about number C. Now we've got some fractions. 2 over 5 is a fraction, 3 over 4 is a fraction, and 3 over 1 is a fraction. In order to get rid of these fractions, to clear them before we actually do any other steps to get our b's by themselves, we need to multiply through by the lowest common multiple of 5, 4, and 1, and that's 20. So if you put 20 on the outside, and you're telling yourself that you're going to multiply every single term in your equation by 20, it looks like this. 20 times 2b over 5. A quick way to get there is say 5 goes into 20 4 times, and 4 times 2b is 8b. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 3b is 15 of those b's, and 1 goes into 20 times. 20 times 3 is 60. So now you have something that's friendlier. It's a little bit easier to solve it. Combine your like terms. You've got b's here, add them together, and you've got 23 of them, equaling 60. Divide both sides by 23. 23 is a prime number, and 60 is not a multiple of 23, so you have your answer right there in fine fashion. One more of these. This is where we need to clear our decimals. So we've got to decide what power of 10 are we going to multiply through by to get rid of the decimals that actually happen to be in each term. Each of these have just a tenth on the other side of the decimal sign. So if we multiply through by a 10, that'll take care of us. So again, I usually just put a big bracket to indicate exactly what I'm doing. I'm running out of room. Oh, come here, eraser. There you go. Bear with me. So equals negative 3.7. So when you multiply through by 10, essentially you're just moving the decimal point one place. So you end up with 13 plus 5x equals negative 37. Now that looks a whole lot friendlier to me than what we started with right here. Now you go about your business, two-step equation, subtract, and we end up with 5x equaling negative 50. That goes in nicely. Divide, and we get x is equal to negative 10. So that takes care of a few examples of those kinds of problems. One more I want to do before I end this video on the next page is using some geometry figures to, again, solve equations. You're going to have to write the equation, however. So with the idea that the sum of any three angles in a triangle is 180 degrees, that's going to help us write the equation. These two half circles, or part of a circle, arcs, I guess we should call them, indicate that this angle and this angle are the exact same measure. So they don't put the 8x plus 4 over here written, but they imply it by the figures in the inside the triangle. So that lets us be able to set up our equation that says, okay, that 3x plus 20, this guy right here, plus 2 of those 8x plus 4s is going to equal, the sum of that is going to equal 180 degrees. Now we just need to clean up and simplify the left-hand side of our equation. We'll do some distribution to get rid of the grouping symbol, and we end up with 16x plus 8 equaling 180. So we end up with 19 x's, that guy and that guy, plus 28, no, 28, erase, plus 28 equaling 180. Subtract 28 from both sides, and you guys can, I'm sure, finish this up on your own. 19x equals 152. Divide by 19. 19 is a prime number, but 152 is a multiple of 19. So don't assume just because you've got a prime number on the bottom that this can't be simplified further. So x is equal to 8. Okay, we're done with this video. Thanks for watching. See you in class.